A few months ago, we were wrapping up the construction of our new home, but we ran into a few issues and they needed to be rectified before we moved in. And this is where my friend Rob came into place. Rob has plenty of experience working in and around homes. He used to be a home inspector. And so we called him out to fix some things. And in the process, he noticed that I dabbled a bit in IT. Now, to be clear, I am still very much a networking noob, but Rob saw me setting up my own home security system at the time and wanted to know of a simple solution that maybe he could entertain for his own place. And well, that's where I recommended Ubiquiti. Now, I know that this isn't the only solution, and look, I'm not going to tout them as like the end-all be-all best option for everyone out there. Ubiquiti's not the sponsor of this video, but they have been very gracious over the years and have sent pretty much anything we've asked for. So they've sent out a bunch of stuff: an access point, a switch, a gateway, several cameras. We're gonna make sure that he has the peace of mind he's looking for, and this might even go above and beyond that. The other great thing about Ubiquiti stuff, and this is why I use them, because I am a networking noob, is that it is extremely simple to set up, and we'll show you that as well in this video. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Are you ready? Stay with me.
Got wood? The Antec CA curved wood has a lovely walnut aesthetic and a seamless curved tempered glass panel for epic views of your latest PC build. Touting support for back connect motherboards, up to 3 360mm fan radiator combos simultaneously, and enough clearance for the massive cinder blocks AMD and Nvidia are putting out today, rest assured the CA chassis can handle it all. Healthy front I/O, plenty of ventilation, and bountiful cable management headroom are the icing, sprinkles, and cherry on the cake. Learn more about the Antec CA curved wood by clicking the link below.
Field trips are always fun, right? And boy oh boy, can you tell it is cicada season.
So Rob's place backs up to a small lake, which is very nice, but the front of his property resides along a major road, so he'd like security cameras to cover this area here around back, as well as the front corner of his porch, where he'll have a great view of incoming traffic. Currently, his home internet solution consists of a Spectrum modem and supplied router, and that's it. And normally, for a basic setup, this would be fine, but he does want beefed up security, especially for some of the stuff he keeps around his property. And by the way, the additional ports at the rear of this router are not PoE, so switching to something that we have from Ubiquiti will keep cables much simpler without the need for PoE injection. This Unify Cloud Gateway Max also has a built-in NVR, which we'll get to a bit later. We'll keep the Spectrum modem online and delete the included router. Once the gateway's set up, we can connect our WAN cable, then run a short Cat6 cable from the gateway to the switch, and that'll do it. Now we can simply connect our additional Unify devices here for a virtually plug-and-play experience. Rob immediately got to work setting up mounting locations for the various access points and cameras we'll be running throughout the house. The first was the U7 Pro access point location, and since his ceilings are vaulted, we thought it would make more sense to mount it facing inward, which should allow us to run a cable through the attic space behind this wall. These access points are directional, but he had no need for Wi-Fi outside of his home. Anything else outside will be hardwired anyway. The cameras we'll be using, by the way, are unified G5 PTZs with one exception. These are turret style and are capable of swiveling nearly 360 degrees for person tracking and a wide field of view. Next on my side of things was to install this 2TB NVMe pre-equipped with a tray compatible with the cloud gateway. Rob only plans to store footage including vehicle and people motion for now, and 2TB should allow him to store tons of these scenes before any is overwritten. Anything important he can manually back up in software. Say he sees someone suspicious on his property, he can save that for later use. Once the drive is slid into place within the cloud gateway, the unit detects the drive and formats it for immediate use. Speaking of, here's how easy adoption is for a brand new Ubiquiti setup. Since the modem is still online and we've power fed to the gateway and switch, we can open up Unify software pulled from the App Store and select Setup. We had a makeshift access point connected as well, just to make things a bit easier during the transition and to ensure our switch was functioning properly. Then it was time for firmware updates, and depending on how old your Ubiquiti gear is at time of purchase, you may need to do this for all of the devices on the network, including access points. Shortly after, it was all ready to go, and the switch in particular was ready for additional devices. By this point, Rob had already situated the mounting locations for the 2 exterior PTZ cameras and even test fit them to ensure they were snug. This gear is also designed for outdoor use, of course, and it's watertight, so that's super important for places like Florida where it rains quite a bit.
Now, I did have to go back and buy some Cat6 cable. Why is my lens fogging up? Yeah, this is pretty important for any install. Can't believe I missed that, but we should be okay now.
Since this place is more or less a temporary setup for Rob and he expects to move rather soon, we didn't spend a ton of time neatly stowing Cat 6 runs. You'll see some of the things we did just to clean it up a bit, but we wanted this to be easy to remove as well once he did decide to move. We made a few holes that would get us started, of course running things outside, getting them up into the attic, and then we squeezed each cable into its desired location. The access point was the first, since it was already adopted. With the Ethernet cable already set, it was as simple as connecting and twisting onto its mounting bracket. Again, we know that the way that this thing's mounted isn't ideal, but it definitely did get the job done once we got around to testing Wi-Fi strength a bit later, even actually behind the access point, which we didn't expect. It fired right up and it was easy to spot thanks to the baked-in LED ring light. We had cables running up to the attic in soffits with plastic channels, again, just something to time over until he moved, but it did help clean the lookup and shield them from the elements. Other areas of the attic space were used to connect the cameras, one of which you can see me connecting here. We were sure to spare a bit of time afterward for hiding these Ethernet runs as best as possible underneath the roof lines. In general, for security solutions like these, it's best to not leave any part of this exposed as it could present potential vulnerabilities. That said, these were high enough that it would take special tools or a ladder at the very least to sever these connections. Rob took care of the other camera, by the way, around back. After a few one-click adoptions and updates, both PTZs were up and running, easily manipulated by Unify Protect software. We set up recording zones and events to store in the gateway, and trial and error a bit of AI detection as well, something that is still a bit foreign to me even with my own Ubiquiti security solution. We didn't show it earlier, but we also set up a G5 Pro inside facing the front door for additional security, of course using cable channels again, and set up recording times such that it wouldn't be totally invasive for family members and guests during the day. It also needed an update, which was one click away. There were a few issues in software that we encountered, particularly with the PTZs. We noticed that certain functions were not available within the application. We had to use the browser solution to get the cameras to do certain things, to enable certain things like specific tracking and stuff that we had in mind, but we expect these will largely be worked out in the coming weeks since they're relatively new products. We made sure that notifications from Motion were being sent out on time, and all 4 devices to this day have been operating seamlessly.
And just like that, another install complete. You know, I'd say I'm getting kind of good at this. Ubiquiti makes it simple though. Their stuff is just so user-friendly. For noobs like me, it is not all that scary, and I feel pretty confident that my buddy's gonna be set up for several years. Now, he might be moving soon, like I mentioned, so some of the stuff is kind of just, you know, it's there, but it's not permanent. And that was by design. You know, he just ran some of the cablings above his soffits and whatnot. So not the most robust solution, but for him and his needs currently, I think it is perfect. So again, I'd like to give a big shout out to Ubiquiti. I'd like to give a shout out to Rob as well for being so cool, allowing us to film in and around his place. It's kind of a temporary setup where he is now, but he's a very busy man. And the fact that he was so willing to let us film in there and kind of show how we set things up, I'm very grateful for that. So thank you so much for watching. Speaking of being grateful, I'm very thankful that you've all watched this video. Again, sometimes I make a fool of myself. I'm sure I didn't set up everything exactly the way that we should have from the start, but we can always tweak things later. The software stuff is still a little, yeah, Rob's place is pretty fortified now. Much better than where he started, where he had basically no security at all.
Where do you want to go?
Chick-fil-A.
You'll need to turn on location services for that.
Okay,
Want to turn it off?
Sure.